What does it mean to be a woman?
What the fuck was that?
Shut the fuck up. Do me a favor, leave this lobby. You shouldn't even be on here.
Oh, really?
Yeah, really. Why are you still here?
She's busty but ugly, you know what I mean?
Hey, bitch, get off game!
Shut up! Why are there women talking to me? Is this Battlefield or Bed Bath & Beyond? What the fuck is this?
That's a bit.
Shut up.
Shut the fuck up, you dumb slut. Only get spoken when you get spoken to.
I'm gonna lie, y'all suck. It's probably because you got a black dude and a girl on your team.
Bro, shut the fuck up. This piece of shit.
Oh, we got a white knight up in here.
You're very nice, Viper. Thank you. How come they never talk after I talk? This is why I have social anxiety.
Their brains, they try to convince themselves that I am attracted to them.
You, and if you think I'm an FGC tourist, suck my balls.
Online gaming has become one of the most influential digital cultures of the 21st century. Yet, its foundations were built within technological environments that carried deeply gendered assumptions about who belonged in digital spaces. These assumptions were not peripheral accidents. They were embedded in the design practices, community norms, and commercial incentives that shaped early online worlds and continued to shape their successors. My argument is that sexism in gaming is a long-term structural outcome that connects sexuality, representation, and technological culture. It emerges through the mutual shaping of technology and society, a dynamic that techno-feminist scholars describe as co-production. By examining early text-based worlds, commercial multiplayer systems, game design practices, platform architectures, and algorithmic environments, we can see how gendered power became normalized in gaming and why digital gender inequality has proven so persistent. The earliest online game communities reveal the origins of these patterns. Text-based worlds like Federation hosted thousands of players and created rich social ecosystems, but they lacked meaningful moderation or productive infrastructure. Ethnographic work by T.L. Taylor documents how women in these early digital cultures were frequently dismissed as imposters, pressured to reveal personal information, and subjected to verbal harassment that targeted their gender and sexuality. This work, by nature, was done to get a first-hand account of the female experience in online games, like that of EverQuest. EverQuest is a 3D fantasy-themed, massively multiplayer online role-playing game, launched in March 1999 for Windows by Variant Interactive and 989 Studios. Later, it was published by Sony Online Entertainment. Players explore the world of Norif, completing quests, battling monsters, and interacting with thousands of other players in real time. It was one of the first MMORPGs to achieve mainstream success, sprawling numerous expansions and a sequel, EverQuest 2, in 2004. It helped define the genre and influence later titles. The game emphasized social interaction, guilds, and cooperative play, making it more than just a solo gaming experience. Dare we say it was online? Wow. Play Between Worlds 2006 is a book written by T.L. Taylor, a sociologist and professor at MIT, who wrote this ethnographic study of EverQuest. She explored how multiplayer gaming culture challenges the stereotype of games as isolating. Taylor examined how players move between digital and physical communities, showing that MMORPGs foster real social networks. She analyzed how gaming blurred the lines between leisure and labor, especially in organized guilds and raids. Her research highlighted how players negotiate identity, gender roles, and representation in virtual spaces, and was the first research of its kind. Taylor's work helped establish MMORPGs as legitimate subjects of sociological inquiry, emphasizing that these games are sites of community, culture, and identity formation. These practices were not just meant to be interpersonal conflicts. They formed early cultural templates for how femininity and womanhood would be placed in digital play. The lack of structural protections also signaled that these spaces were built for assumed male users, and that women who entered them did so at a social risk that men rarely faced. This sets the stage up for what would come next, moving forward into commercial online gaming in the late 1990s and early 2000s intensified these dynamics. Services like Sega MegaNet, the PlayStation 2 network adapter, and the GameCube broadband adapter expanded multiplayer access, but the landmark moment was when Xbox Live launched in 2002. Xbox Live marked a decisive cultural shift. Voice chat became a default feature, which meant players could instantly identify a presumed gender based on vocal cues. Remember the verbiage that's used here. Research by Fox and Tang shows that women who speak in voice chat consistently experience higher rates of harassment, sexual comments, belittlement, gatekeeping. The study surveyed 293 women gamers and found that harassment, both general and sexual, was widespread. Many participants felt that gaming companies were not adequately responsive to harassment reports, which contributed to feelings of frustration and lack of safety. Some women reduced playtime or left certain gaming communities altogether because of the repeated harassment. This highlights how toxic environments can push marginalized players out of spaces they enjoy. Women employed various strategies such as ignoring harassers, muting voice chat, or avoiding certain games or servers. However, these strategies often place the burden on the victim rather than addressing systemic issues. Kuznikov. How do you say that? Let's look it up. Kuznikov and Rose similarly found that female voice players received significantly more hostility from male teammates. Researchers conducted an observational experiment in multiplayer matches of Halo 3, which, for the uneducated, uses voice chat almost exclusively. They used pre-recorded audio clips of either male or female voice to interact with players. The study involved 247 matches and 1,660 unique gamers, with all in-game communication digitally recorded and later analyzed. Players responded more negatively to female voices than male voices. Female voices were likely to receive sexist remarks, hostility, and dismissive comments. Male voices often received neutral or even positive engagement. Female voices triggered higher rates of verbal aggression, reinforcing gender stereotypes in gaming spaces. The findings suggest that women face barriers to participation in online gaming communities due to hostile communication. These discoveries complement T.L. Taylor's work on MMORPGs, which showed how identity and social norms are negotiated in gaming worlds. It highlights the need for better moderation tools, community standards, and design interventions to reduce gender-based hostility in multiplayer games. These patterns are confirmed by large-scale empirical studies. Women report experiencing sexual harassment, derogatory comments, challenges to their competence, and persistent assumptions that they are not skilled or not genuine gamers. Many avoid voice chat entirely to minimize the harassment, while others hide their identity, play only with friends, or avoid ranked competition. For women of color, the burden is even heavier. Kishana Gray argues that Black women on Xbox Live experience a form of triple consciousness, balancing the expectations placed on them as women, as racial minorities, and as gamers simultaneously. Race and sexuality intersect in complex ways here, because radicalized sexual harassment frequently targets both identity categories at once. This body of research shows that sexism in gaming is not anecdotal, but systemic. Using digital ethnography, including observation, interviews, and analysis of communication, Gray tries to find how racism, sexism, and homophobia appear in online gaming communities. Marginalized players, especially women of color, face compounded harassment. Players who don't fit the dominant identity are often labeled deviant. Voice chat reveals identity cues that trigger discrimination. Many cope by masking identity or building alternative communities. These problems are structural, tied to the platform, design, and governance. This was one of the first works to center race in game studies, showing how online gaming reproduces offline inequalities. You have to be shitting me. What? I don't record this now, it's never a good time. Mia Consalvo argues that mainstream game mechanics often reflect masculine-coded values that privilege hyper-competitiveness, dominance-based progression, and linear militaristic goals. Consalvo's work, Confronting Toxic Gamer Culture, a challenge for feminist game studies scholars, published in ADA Journal of Gender, New Media, and Technology, Issue 1, is a fundamental analysis of the culture surrounding gaming. Is a fundamental analysis of the culture surrounding gaming culture. Privileging aggression and dominance, such games implicitly marginalize players who prefer cooperative, creative, or nurturing playstyles. This contributes to the toxic gamer culture that Consalvo critiques, where alternative play is dismissed as casual or illegitimate. These systems encourage behavior that reward aggression and mastery, which tend to align with masculine social norms. Research on in-game representation reinforces this point. Studies by Downs and Smith found that female characters are consistently underrepresented, sexualized, and placed in subordinate roles. They conducted a content analysis of top-selling video games and found that female characters were both underrepresented and disproportionately sexualized compared to male characters. Their study highlights how video games perpetuate gender stereotypes by presenting women in hypersexualized ways, while men are depicted more frequently and with less sexual emphasis. The researchers examined the top 20 best-selling console games in the US for the fiscal year 2003. Approximately 489 characters were coded for gender and sexualization. Female characters were significantly underrepresented compared to male characters. This imbalance reinforced the dominance of male figures in gaming narratives. Female characters were far more likely to be depicted in revealing clothing, exaggerated body proportions, and sexualized poses. While men were more numerous, they were rarely sexualized. Instead, they were portrayed as active, powerful, and central to gameplay. This contrast underscored a gendered double standard in video game design. The study argued that such portrayals contribute to the gender stereotyping and reinforce cultural norms that value women primarily for their sexual appeal. This work remains a foundational study in media and gender research, often cited in discussions about representation in gaming. These sexualized depictions shape how femininity is expected to appear in game spaces, especially in avatar creation. Going back to T.L. Taylor for a moment, she recounts that the female avatars in EverQuest were often hyper-feminized, while revealing clothing and exaggerated bodies. She selected a gnome avatar to avoid this sexualized scrutiny and found that her interactions became less hostile as a result. The sexual politics of representation, therefore, shape not only visibility, but also conditions under which women can safely participate. When this happens, you need something new. You need feminism. Techno-feminism. Okay, slowing it down. Coined by Judy Wojcicki, the mother of techno-feminism, she contends that technology and society are mutually constitutive, meaning that systems designed by homogeneous groups will reproduce the cultural assumptions of those groups. The development is found in her landmark book. In gaming, this results in architectures that reflect masculine norms and fail to anticipate harms disproportionately experienced by women and queer players. These omissions are not neutral. They reveal the gendered priorities and blind spots of the industry itself. Techno-feminist theory clarifies why these patterns persist. Jackman's work shows that technological systems absorb and reproduce existing power relations, so male-dominated designs teams naturally produce technology shaped by masculine expectations. With necessary history out of the way, it's time to see how this expands across platforms as gaming culture migrated from consoles into digital platforms like YouTube, Twitch, and later TikTok. The gendered norms identified in games themselves, such as the hypersexualization of female characters and the dominance of male-centered narratives, were not left behind, but instead expanded and transformed through platform dynamics. The rise of Let's Plays, commentary channels, and live streams turned gaming into a form of public performance, where the behaviors and discourses of gaming communities were broadcast to mass audiences. These performances often carried forward the competitive banter, trash talk, and sexist tropes embedded into gaming culture, but now they were amplified by the economic and algorithmic structures of the platform. As Sophie Bishop argues in Managing Visibility on YouTube Through Algorithmic Gossip, YouTube's recommendation system rewards content that provokes strong emotional engagement, whether outrage, humor, or conflict, because such reactions drive watch time, clicks, and comments. Creators quickly learn to exploit these incentives, producing more extreme and provocative content that often includes sexist jokes, anti-feminist commentary, or confrontational humor designed to spark debate and outrage. This dynamic creates a structural feedback loop. Misogyny emerges within gaming practices, is repackaged as entertainment content, and then algorithmically amplified to reach wider audiences. Once amplified, These discourses become normalized among viewers who encounter sexist humor repeatedly framed as just part of gaming culture. Over time, repetition desensitizes audiences, embedding misogyny into the cultural grammar of online gaming communities. These normalized attitudes then flow back into gameplay and community interactions, reinforcing harassment, exclusion, and hostile environments for women and marginalized players. Importantly, the cycle is not incidental. It's built into the economic logic of platform capitalism, where algorithms prioritize engagement regardless of the social consequences. The result is a self-reinforcing system in which sexism is incentivized, circulated, and entrenched at scale. Gaming culture thus becomes both a source and beneficiary of misogynistic discourse, with platforms acting as accelerants rather than neutral hosts. This has broader implications beyond gaming. The same mechanisms that amplify sexist jokes in gaming videos also shape meme culture, influencer branding, and even to some degree political commentary, demonstrating how platform algorithms can transform niche community norms into mainstream cultural currents. In this way, the hypersexualization documented by Downs and Smith that was previously spoken about, and the algorithmic amplification described by Bishop, which was previously spoken about, are linked in a continuum that begins as representational bias in games and then evolves into structural misogyny across digital culture, sustained by the very systems designed to maximize engagement. Building upon this, the culture of gaming on YouTube often reflects and amplifies long-standing sexism in gaming communities. Female gamers and content creators frequently face harassment, denigration, and hypersexualized assumptions purely based on their gender. For instance, many women report being called derogatory names, dismissed as not real gamers, or reduced to sexualized stereotypes rather than being judged on their skills or content. This mirrors findings from studies showing that women in online games regularly endure insults, threats, and sexist remarks that go beyond casual trash talk and become a barrier to equal participation. At the same time, YouTube as a platform can intensify those problems. Female gaming, YouTube, and streamers often receive disproportionate attention for their appearance or gender rather than their gameplay or commentary, a pattern that echoes broader audience biases. Recent research suggests
it's hard to fucking
that
say, but I notice it the most when I'm really focused on like a video game that I'm playing, like my focused face, and like people always are like, oh, you look so sad, or why are you mad? It's just the way that my eyes rest, and I don't like the way that they look. I don't like it. Like I wish I just looked normal. Like I don't want to look tired anymore all the time. I don't want to look sad all the time anymore. So I just want to get rid of it. I'm 20. I'm gonna be 20.
Legendarny Jacek! A to Wirnis!
Mam nadzieję, że zdobędziesz diament.
Hilde
Mam
Cornelius
nadzieję,
and Jill
że
Walker
koty
Redbird
ci nie
speak
będą
about how
sikać
gaming
na
introduces
łóżko.
many young people to programming,
Mam
game design,
nadzieję, że
sports, and computer
będziesz top
science.
jednego
When
Twitcha.
girls and women encounter
Mam
hostility in
nadzieję,
gaming
że po
spaces,
tych
they are
słowach
less
nie
likely
będą
to
mnie
pursue these
wyzywać
fields, which contribute to
Ja mam
long-term
nadzieję,
gender
że
imbalances in
dasz
technology
mi
and
za
digital media.
miesiąc suba.
These imbalances have cultural and economic
Dzięki,
consequences
Wirniś,
that
się
extend
tego.
far beyond the gaming
Dzięki,
world.
Wirniś,
A
nie
work
znam.
environment without women
No miłe
lacks
słowa
the
i sobie
capacity to
suba.
have important
Dziękuję
conversations
bardzo.
about gender
Stuleja,
inclusion.
nie przejmuj się nimi, oni zazdroszczą naszej miłości,
Understanding
Wirnik.
sexism in gaming
Czy nie?
as a
To ja
structural
od razu, my kumpele, nie my kumpele.